You're listening to the Governor's Podcast, which is hosted by school governors for school governors and for all involved in or impacted by education governance. On the Governor's Podcast, we have open, honest and transparent discussions about governance in the UK education sector, sharing and providing insights into the realities of entering the boardroom, sitting around the governing board table and leaning in.
Hello, I'm Sharon Warmington and I support schools and academies as a governor, governance practitioner and a clerk. I'm also the CEO of the National Black Governors Network, supporting the education sector in diversifying their governing boards.
And it's Olivia D Hinds here, an under 30, unapologetically black female who is changing the face and space of school governance.
And you're listening to the Governor's Podcast. Okay, let's get into today's topic.
So when is it time to go?
To go to leave?
To leave, to get out.
Well, yeah.
That sounded a bit violent.
Yeah. You have your terms of office,
Yeah.
which is set on appointment, and most governing bodies that I'm aware of will have a standard 4-year term.
Yes, yeah, I know that.
In the private sector, it can be 3 years,
Okay.
and I think it is actually written into the UK Corporate Governance Code that you do a maximum of 3 terms,
Right.
so 9 years.
That's corporate.
I think that's corporate, yes.
Okay, yeah.
But in what I find really strange, to be honest, is that in the education sector, there doesn't seem to be a maximum term.
Oh, for real? There's not like a maximum number of
No.
terms that you should do?
No.
So people could just be there
Yes.
for like 15,
And it
20
didn't
years?
really... I remember when I was a parent governor in the early 2000s. Was that when you were in school?
Yes, it would have been
Early
2005, 2006.
I remember a governor there had got a recognition by the local authority for, I think it was 30 years service or something.
30?
And I remember thinking, wow, that's a long time.
In the same school?
In the same school.
Okay. Do you know if they had multiple roles during that time?
I think at some point around within that 30-year sentence, I think you get less for life.
I haven't even lived 30 years
You get
yet.
less for murder. Sorry, I shouldn't say. We really shouldn't say that. But hey, no, 30 years. I think they'd been chair and vice chair and chair of each and every committee, and you know they'd obviously contributed a lot and brought a lot of value and knowledge to the table. But for me, at the time, I was quite a young governor, because
Okay.
if you were in your teens, I would have been in my 30s.
Oh, so you mean young in age? You don't even mean, because I think
Well,
you
young-
can think of young as a governor
Yeah,
in terms
young-
of
both.
you're still fresh to it.
Both. You know, I was thinking, I was in my 30s, and I was thinking, 30 years?
That's a long time.
That's a long, long time.
I haven't even done 30 years yet. Close, but
And I
no.
just wouldn't, for me, I wouldn't, and I do this whether I'm clerking or as a governor, I don't stay anywhere too long, because I think, and again, this is just my opinion, I think that complacency
Yes,
can
definitely.
set in without you even realising
Yes.
it.
So you're no longer bringing any value
No,
to
I
the
wouldn't say-
table.
I wouldn't say
or
you're
you're
not
too
bringing in value.
comfortable.
Right.
You're way too comfortable.
You think it's, I think there is less impetus to change and to move forward. And I also think that if people have been there for a long, long time, then implementing change can be difficult.
You know,
because you're
especially-
always
yeah.
harping back to, oh, well,
This is
in the
what we
past,
used
or
to
this is
do,
what we used
or
to do.
we've always done it this
or
way.
we've tried that before and it didn't work. Yeah, but if you tried it 10 years ago,
in the world 10
in
years
the world
ago.
10 years ago.
That doesn't mean trying it now.
Right.
It will be the same.
Things have changed.
Exactly.
So things. I recently did a session for a local authority, actually, not governors. It was for their staff, around change.
Mm-hmm.
And I put up pictures like the fax machine.
Sorry.
Because the fax machine was high technology in the 90s when I was working.
I do know what a fax machine is. Just anyone listening, it's just funny to hear it.
It was like, wow. And then when you could send broadcasts, meaning you could send the same fax to different people by punching in their numbers or programming their numbers in, and it would just go once. That was like high technology. And then, you know, we used to have horse and cart. We used to have dial-up.
Yes.
You know, so change is good, and some people will always be resistant to change, and that's fine. You know, sometimes I'm resistant to change.
It depends on what type of change.
It depends on how you embrace it and all that kind of stuff.
And you look at how it benefits you. Some changes don't necessarily directly impact you immediately, so therefore you don't fully understand it because it's not something that you require right now.
Right.
So, you know, whereas other people, that change will actually allow them to propel themselves forward.
Absolutely.
So change impacts different people differently.
Absolutely. And when you're thinking about new governors coming in, it can be very intimidating.
Yes.
For a new governor coming in and then realizing that the majority of people around the table have been here for a long time
with each other,
and therefore there is some kind of shared knowledge,
groupthink.
Gotta
use that terminology I learned when I did that I did that corporate governance course.
Shout out to the governance forum for that.
You know.
You know, that groupthink and that struggle to ask questions.
Yes.
Because then you will be seen as challenging.
Yes.
Or troublesome.
Yes.
You know, because you are
radical.
Pushing, yes, you are pushing against the status quo, and you are questioning those that have been there, and how dare you do that?
Yeah. And if you haven't, I think this speaks to training as well. Like,
yes.
A lot of training is focused on induction, so newbies, but there's, you know, when you've been somewhere for a period of time, you think you don't need refresher training.
Yes.
Because, I've done the training already. That already could have been years ago.
Yes.
And it's like, you need the refresher. You need to be reminded. Or you need training on change.
Absolutely.
You need training
because the world
on
has
how
changed.
to. Yeah, exactly.
The world has changed, and the students have changed, and that goes
The
back.
students have changed.
There you go.
Bring it.
That goes back to the term of office when I'm saying, you know, if you've done 2 terms, which is 8 years, that means you've seen year 7s right through to year 13.
Year 7s have come in and out.
Right. Or nursery through to year 6.
Yes.
Right? So you've done like
a whole generation
of students.
Yes.
Recognise that.
Yes.
And say to yourself, we're not saying, or I'm not saying, don't continue to be a governor.
No.
What I'm saying is take your governorship into another setting.
Yes.
That is new, that will be challenging to you, that will be cause you to have to think differently. If you've governed in a secondary school for 2 terms or even 3 terms, switch to a primary school
or a different type
to an alternative provision,
a different
switch to a selective or a non-selective, make a switch.
The thing is, like, we're not saying that 30 years of being a governor is too long.
Absolutely not.
We're saying 30 years in the same position, in the same setting as a governor is too long.
It's too long.
Because, I mean, it does speak to generations, because I know older generations than myself, you tend to go into a job, an organization, and you stay there and you go up the hierarchy and so, or if you're aspirational, you'll go up the hierarchy. Whereas my generation, we're used to switching between jobs, switching between industries and things like that. However, this is voluntary.
Yeah.
So you have the choice. This is not going to impact you financially as such. Like, obviously, you don't want to give up one job for another job just for the sake of change if it's going to impact you financially and your household and things like that. But I'm thinking for something voluntary, like being a governor at a school, you literally have the freedom of movement.
Movement, absolutely. Without financial impact. It's
Exactly,
not as if
that's
you're
what I
leaving
mean.
a job. Yeah.
Exactly. So you could literally take the skills that you've learned in one setting and offer them somewhere else. Because you may have exhausted, you don't realize it, but you may have exhausted your offer in one setting because of how long you've been there. That doesn't mean you're less valuable.
Yes.
Your value will just be better placed in a different environment.
Yes.
So I think it's worthy, especially if you know how to do self-assessment.
Yes.
It's good to include that element.
And it all speaks to board effectiveness
Yes.
and things like that. You have to be honest with yourself.
Got to.
And as I said in the beginning, I adopt that same approach in my clerking
Yes.
profession. I don't stay anywhere too long because I become comfortable.
Become sediment, man.
And
you just settle.
Yeah, and I think the longest I've done is about 7 years, and I've just resigned. And it was hard because I really, really like the board. The trust is growing, but I was becoming bored with it because I couldn't see where I could continue to add value.
And that's so dangerous.
And
it's dangerous when you
I didn't
yourself,
want to do that.
you lose the drive,
Yes.
you lose the incentive, you lose the willingness to go above and beyond, because it's like,
yeah. And so for some it would be like, well, you've got a really fantastic clerking role there,
the relationships that you would have built.
relationships, paid very well and all of that, but I will just switch and go to another school because I know how to clerk.
Yes, yeah.
I know how to, I got that down.
Yeah.
I know how to do that. But, I may not know what clerking in that particular environment. It could still be a MAT board. It could be a SAT board. It could be, a maintained or whatever. But clerking in a different environment,
Yes.
I can bring my skills and knowledge, but I can also learn something.
There you
if
go.
I'm not learning something, even
Yes.
if it's the governor's names, then I get bored.
Like networking with new people.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like, if I'm correct in what we're basically saying, is it comes back to something we've spoken about in a previous episode about reconnecting or being very clear about your why.
Yes.
Because then you're not attaching your why to a physical space, you're attaching a why to a bigger concept, because then your why, you can do that somewhere else. So
Yes.
if your why is to have a impact and like positively influence young people or generations to come, you can literally do that in any school that you're a governor at.
Absolutely.
So it's no longer about a singular school.
Right.
It becomes about so much more than that. It's like, I just want to affect change. I think it's affect, right? Affect change.
Yes.
We'll
run with it.
Affect change in the long run for generations, which means you can move. And as you say, I feel like I'm almost doing a takeaway very early, but I do want to catch it now in terms of your own willingness to learn and grow.
Yes.
Because if you don't learn, or if you stop learning, you stop growing, you stop evolving, because then it doesn't become about age. You can be as old as you want to be, as young as you want to be, but if you are constantly learning, then the growth will naturally take care of itself. So it's thinking, I've done everything I can here.
Yes.
But I can now do so much more there.
Absolutely. And it comes down to succession planning.
Oh, yes.
You have to
bring it to us.
Some people may get frightened by too much change, but every year a new set of students enters your school.
Thank you.
So change is happening all the time.
Thank you.
So therefore you shouldn't fear it.
Thank you.
You've got to say to yourself, okay, what is my exit before my entry?
Oh! Oh! I just felt that.
I do that. I do that in business. I do that in most things that I look at.
Yes.
Right? How can I get out so that I don't overstay?
Oh, jeez. I'm learning today.
You know, because I think if you adopt that attitude,
No, it's true. It's true.
then you will constantly be wanting to add value more than just take up the space.
Yes, and you've got to focus. And it means that, because if you don't have that, and it's not to say that you plan to be there for 2 terms and you cannot stay longer.
Absolutely.
Because obviously, maybe partway through your 2nd term, something big is happening and you want to see it through to the end.
Absolutely.
So it's recognizing that everyone's situation is different.
Yes.
But it's about having the intention
Yes.
in mind from the beginning.
Yes.
Because then it means that you've got something to focus on. Because if you say, I'll stay here until I get bored, or I'll stay here for however long.
Or worse,
then
if you
it
don't
means,
even think about it.
Yeah, then it means that time will just keep
Keep
rolling.
going, yes.
And so what will happen is you come in as a new governor with no plan, no vision, no desire to really allow yourself to think of it strategically, which
Yes.
is why you're there. And then what happens is you come in and you don't put yourself up for any chair of
Right.
any committee. You don't go for the vice chair or the chair of the LGB, local governing body. You don't become a link governor. You don't ask questions. You don't become proactive. You don't engage and really establish relationships, because for you, I'm just here.
Yeah, and you can't.
And you never want to
you
be
can't
just here
do
in
that.
any space.
Or worse than that, again, in my opinion, you do all those roles.
Yes.
And you're still there.
And you're just like, yo, what if someone else comes in and they want to try? You know, there's power in being able to pass
The baton,
on
right.
information.
Absolutely.
There is power in that.
And
I love doing that. I live by that. I like to learn. I like to share, because then we can all evolve.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely pointless and a waste of time if I learn something and keep it to myself.
Yeah. What's the point?
What is the point? Because if everyone did that, then it means that I never get to learn something new from someone else, because they've just kept it to themselves. And you are a governor in an environment that's there to educate.
Absolutely. And that's why it's like with clerking, I love talking to other clerks to share. You know, it doesn't mean I know everything.
No.
I learn from them just as much. But if I can help you to move forward, if I can help you over this hurdle, if I can do something that's going to make a difference to you and your clerking practice,
Yes.
why would I deny that? Why would
Exactly.
I deny that to you? I don't see the
Exactly.
point of that.
Exactly.
So yeah, move on.
Keep it moving.
With the greatest there is. And part of what I do as my governance report for the schools that I either clerk or where I deliver external reviews of governance is to sort of highlight that.
Yes.
To say that, you know, this is the length of service that you've had from these individuals. You know, you need to be aware of that, and you need to have a succession plan, because the danger is that you will have a governing body that is full of people that know everything.
Yes.
And then one day they may just decide that they're not doing it anymore, and you will lose
Like
all
three,
of that
four
knowledge.
people.
3-4 people
In one go.
In one go.
Because you haven't
Right.
really looked at everyone's terms of office and how they impact the entire board.
Absolutely.
Because you're meant to work as one entity anyway.
Absolutely.
One unit.
So, and especially if they're holding positions, key positions.
Yeah.
I remember being a clerk to a school, and the finance committee chair, and I think it was the chair of governors, and 2 others who were either chair of curriculum or teaching and learning or something like that. Their terms of office all fell due within a 6-month period.
It's a dangerous position
And
to
I
be
just
in.
thought, wow, you know, what if, I mean, you know, in that situation, I think they were all happy to be reappointed.
Yeah.
But
That was convenient though, because you
if
don't
they
know.
weren't, the loss.
Exactly.
And sometimes people will be reappointed, not necessarily because they want to be, but
because there's no one else.
The school has seen, oh, we really need you, because
Yes.
if you go, we haven't got anybody else.
Yes.
And you don't want things to stand or fall on one individual.
No. There's that.
Because that's vulnerable.
So very much what you've just said in terms of you don't want the weight on one person's shoulders, or for them to feel it's an obligation, or that they're trapped.
Yes.
But at the same time, you do not want to be kicked out.
No.
I would rather pack up my own stuff and go, but you don't want someone literally pushing you out the door.
Say, okay, it's time. You need to leave now.
Exit stage left, if you will.
And that's why holding the power yourself.
Yes, exactly.
And almost being very verbal. You know, it is my intention to stay at least one term, possibly 2 terms, and be very clear and honest about it. And that's why it goes back to the succession plan when I say you come in, you spend your first year getting under the skin of the school. That's fine. By your second year, look for a link role. By your third year, look for a committee role. By your fourth year, if you're going to have another term of office of 4 years, you should be putting yourself up for chair of governors. And then you avoid that situation in September where, you know, everyone's like hiding, you know, around the table because they don't want to be nominated for any key roles. Yeah, it's like being
in school and they just put they don't make eye contact with the head or the clerk, and you're just like
stop.
Oh, so
if you've got a board that's constantly evolving, people want to be part of that, and they understand you add value or you leave. And when you've added the value that you brought, then you are comfortable to leave because you've left it in a position of strength that is going to move forward, and you know it's not good. You know, you don't want to be so egotistical that you say, oh, they can't cope without me.
Oh, no, you don't want that. If anything, you want an environment that you know you've given so much to, that even on your way out, you almost find people that you can offer as potential, like place fillers or some people who can come in behind you.
Absolutely.
You know, so like, because then you've got that knowledge. You've like, I've been with this school for so many years or whatever, and this is what it's been able to do. And then you start to talk to other people about it. So you help the school with filling those places so that the school is never struggling with trying to find new, fresh,
and a recommendation,
like, proactive blood.
A recommendation will be a lot easier than somebody coming in cold, because I've just experienced that with somebody who's chair of finance, who was leaving but committed to find somebody and did, and that person had obviously had a conversation with the individual and very keen, and so we've got a new chair of finance because we know that those around the table will avoid it like the plague.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, and so it's important that if you're leaving, that you try and,
if you can,
and give back in that way as well, by helping the school to move forward and not leave that gap.
Of course, definitely. Right, so takeaway. Yeah, your takeaway.
Have your exit before your entry.
You know what? You were dropping them gems, you know. You were. So that's a nice one to finish on. I would say, I like the concept of moving with a generation through the school.
Yes.
So the year 7 you come in with, not that you definitely have to leave when they leave, but use that at least. If you have no idea how to plan an exit, then I would say use that as your example. So if you come into a school in 2021 and you know, say the school only goes up to year 11, it doesn't have a sixth form, then you know you've got at least one whole term, and then you have the option during your second term to decide at what point you may go, or you stay and complete your second term. There you go. So you may think, okay, the first 4 years I'm in, but then the years after that, I'm thinking of my succession planning. Where will I go next? And who could I potentially bring in to support the school when I've gone?
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I like that.
Nice.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please rate, review, and subscribe via your preferred streaming platform. The Governor's Podcast is a brand of the legal entity Education Governance Solutions Limited and a free training resource for anyone. So if you know someone who is interested in becoming a governor or a trustee, please share this podcast with them. And if you'd like to get in touch with us directly with questions or comments, then drop us an email at thegovernorspodcast@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on social media platforms at The Governor's Podcast. Let's connect.